Sure, sir.
So in the beginning, you will see on our website, we have a specific to COVID in the web application. There's something very specific to COVID. And I would request all of you to use because it takes care of some of your needs. It takes care of needs of students. It takes care of needs of those who need medical attention, medicine. And
small request, Sandeepji.
Boli?
Yeah, I saw like it was streaming on YouTube. Can you send me like which YouTube channel we can link instead of Facebook, because we cannot connect to Facebook? At least like people can watch.
Yes, I will send the streaming link.
Okay.
So,
thank you so much.
Yeah. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah. Roll the video.
Oh, sure.
No, the video is not coming.
Looks like it's in a different window. I can only see the folder.
It's not.
You need to share the screen. Like if you select share.
I shared the screen.
No, all your personal files are shown.
Yeah, local.
Can you see now?
You're sharing the folder.
Saying COVID diplomacy.
No.
Yeah, you'll get different windows here.
नहीं कुछ और आ रहा है.
Bring that into this window.
नहीं. You run it on your computer and then show.
Yeah. And bring that window to the screen.
Can you see now?
No.
No.
So, 1 second.
So we can able to see your folder. Bring the video window.
Let's leave it for the time being. You sort it out, and then whenever you're able to show, you show it.
Sure.
We can carry on. Remove the folder.
And Sandeepji, many of the parents are asking in the meantime. Many of the parents are asking like when they can go to India because the flights are not there, and some other people like who are stuck in like our American Indians who are stuck in like India, they came back. So is there any similar situation that you are sending the people back from like here to India?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very relevant question. As of now, we will wait till the commercial flights are resumed. There is no plan as of now for evacuation flights for several reasons. One of them, of course, is that India is in lockdown, and all our flights, international flights, domestic flights. You have to understand the difference in the lockdown in the United States and in lockdown in India. In the United States, in New York, which is the epicenter of the virus, we are seeing that the buses run, trains run, flights are running. In India, buses are not running, trains are not running, flights not running. So the degree of the lockdown in India and the United States are very different. So no flights are operating in India. So at the moment, therefore, there is no plan for an evacuation. And also it is not safe to travel. So my advice to parents and students who are here is to, as they have waited for the last 2 weeks, just wait for some more days till we have the resumption of the flights, and then they can go back.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandeepji.
There is an extended question to that, Sandeepji. This is Rajnikant. How are you? Good, sir. How are you doing? So the question is, there are, from India, they're taking case by case, like opened up a registration link or something like that, where I've seen people traveling from India to US with a special request and they have to go through a special process. But if there is a way that we can do similar kind of setup or situation, because there are, people who really want to travel to India in.
Yeah, there are lots of people who really want to go back to India. I don't want to in any way discount or dismiss that need. it's a very, very legitimate and genuine need. People who have come back, who have come to meet their children, people who were tourists, people who came on business, then people whose parents have died in India or unwell. Lots of people are there, and we are getting every day hundreds of such requests. But the point is that we will be able to start some kind of a registration process only when such flights are planned. So as I said before, such flights are not planned as of now because of the reasons I gave. As I said, you have to understand the difference between the lockdown in India and the lockdown in the United States. Also, you have to understand there's a difference in the number of people, Americans who were in India and the number of Indians who are in the United States. There is no match. So even if you, and also another point is, even if you're able to go back, people need to be quarantined. And where will you quarantine such numbers? So these are all logistical nightmares. And unless we have the answer to each and every question, we cannot have a situation where many more hundreds of thousands of people go back to India. Everyone is a potential carrier of the virus. Which country in the world is the most affected by the coronavirus? Can you answer me?
Yeah, it's us.
Yeah, so there is no comparison.
Yeah.
Getting Americans from India to the US is not in any measure comparable to what is being suggested. And everyone all of us in this conference could be potential carriers. We have a coronavirus severe case in my consulate. One of our colleagues from India, he is very, very sick. So, and as Dr. Fauci and others are saying all the time, we may be a carrier of the virus and not show any symptoms. And another person may have a very less of virus load and may be violently in. So, we can't take this risk. And if the virus spreads in India the way it has spread here, then, we are a very dense, we are 1.3 billion people, it's very difficult. So, as our ambassador was saying yesterday, the decision of the government of India is not out of heartlessness. It is out of a sense of responsibility of trying to, stop it before it becomes unmanageable. So, as of now, I will repeat, no plans of any flights. As you saw in the beginning, I checked with our Deputy Consul General. We will wait for an official word on the flights. We cannot speculate on when they will be resumed. But whenever they will be resumed, it will take into consideration the situation of the virus in India and also in the United States. And also the fact whether people need to be quarantined, and if yes, then where they will be quarantined, those facilities have to be put up, because we cannot have an idea of the numbers. The numbers can be very, very big. We have some expression of interest, but even those are in thousands. And moment we say that there will be special flights, then that expression of interest will actually grow astronomically to a huge number. So lots of considerations. It's not that we are not seized of the matter, but every day there is a discussion on this at the highest level. But I think we are waiting to find the best solution for this problem.
Thank you, Sandeepji. And there was a question. I think most of the visitors are stuck here, right? Because their visa was expired. So is Indian Embassy working with US government officials to get the extension for them?
Yes, in fact, yesterday our ambassador in Washington was in an Instagram chat with lots of students. And I saw that chat, and he very clearly mentioned that the embassy is in discussions with the US authorities. But you have to understand that at the moment, the challenges and the issues that the US government is facing are very different. They are trying to address the problems of the virus. The entire American machinery, government machinery, is trying to mitigate the effects of the virus. So, expecting them to respond to our visa queries, I think is being would be rather misplaced at this moment. They have assured us that they have understood our need, our request, and they will respond in time. So even if somebody's visa status is running out, he or she should apply online on USCIS and wait till if the extension is granted, it's well and good. If the extension is not granted, then we just wait till the flights resume and he or she can leave. But we have been assured that they will sympathetically consider each and every case. So you have to understand that we are operating in a very extraordinary circumstances, and the extraordinary circumstances means that if their visa status is running out, it doesn't mean that it will be compromised. They will be compromised in any way or will face any difficulty. That kind of assurance we have. So we should just need to wait and cross the bridge when we reach it.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep ji. And like it was an extension for them. Like they are asking, like, is there any like fee waiver? It's not in our hand, we know.
Any what?
Any fee waiver for the extension of the visas? Visitor visa, but it's not in our hand, I know. Yeah.
No, it's not in our hand.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
I think Pawan joined. Yeah. Good morning, Pawan.
Hello, morning, Pawan. How are you? We're looking forward to your talk.
He's on mute.
You're
on mute.
Yes, sir. Can we start the video?
Yeah, start.
Please.
Okay. Thank you, Sandeep ji, for giving me this opportunity.
No, we are so delighted that you're speaking on a topic which is so relevant at these times. We're all looking forward to your talk and then your Q&A.
Okay, thank you.
Sugandha, roll it.
Sure, sir.
No, from rewind it. Music नहीं आ रहा. As you see, we have this Pramit web app, which has now adapted for COVID. And, anybody has a query with respect to travel or whatever, you go there and you submit a query on COVID. All our advisories are there, medical prescription, travel advisory, whatever you need. Ramakrishna and Rajnikant, you should bring this to the notice of your members. Then we have the COVID helpline. So, we have a system in place to answer the questions that are being asked by the community members. And as I was saying, many of our programming has moved online, and we are doing lots of events with the community online. Yesterday, we had this New India lecture by Vishwadluri on the Mahabharata, which was quite well received. People joined in from all over the world, actually. This is Pawan's, I think.
It was 2 slides ago that we already passed.
Yeah. So the previous slide was on dental care. So again, a request came from the community that even this one is on yoga and on Vedas, and so this is online programming going on. Then there's programming for children. Then we are having a concert. Then business events are being held online. So this is just a small video. Somehow the music got Sugandha, something happened to the music.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't matter. So
can I share this video, Sandeep ji, later?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, send it to me.
Sandeep ji, this is Harita. I had a question.
In fact, I sent it to you last evening on WhatsApp, so you could
Yep.
see it. Yeah. Harita ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I know during the lockdown, a lot of services, everything is closed. Just wanted to ask, like, so we can tell the community, like, what services are available if, like, people wanted to, like, apply or, you know, extend, like, within the Indian consulate. Is there any service that is open that folks can
Like passport renewal?
passport renewal? Or...
Shatrughan will answer, Deputy Consul General will answer.
So OCI services and visa services have been suspended during this time. Passport services have also been suspended, but if someone really needs a passport for something like a visa extension, or there is some other emergency, maybe for application for a job or something, then in those cases we will consider those applications. The advisory is there available on our website, and those people can write to us. Once we say yes, then the person can apply. Now I would request some understanding from the community's part that these are extraordinary times. The whole city is under lockdown, and we are really working at our minimal resources are being used because of various reasons. Our people are not able to come to the office. So I mean, I assure that in emergency cases we will provide the services, but still there may be some delays, and for those people who can wait for some time, I would request them to wait till things normalize, and after that we will start the services, and we'll provide them as quickly as we can.
Thank you so much. We will let them know that.
Also, I think our miscellaneous services are functional, but only through mail. And again, there will be delay in processing them. Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, Sugandha ji. I'm getting some messages that they are unable to join Zoom as well. Is there anyone waiting in the room?
No, sir. There's nobody on waiting. I accepted all the requests.
Yeah. So it's the same ID, right? What we use?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
But is it being carried on Facebook also?
Sir, it's being carried on YouTube. Facebook has some technical errors, so couldn't connect. I can try again later. So right now it's on YouTube Live, and we have shared the link on our Facebook.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Is there any other question, or should we move to Dr. Pawan's talk now? So Dr. Pawan's talk will take place here only in this room, or you have to enter some other room?
It's the same meeting ID, so same room.
Okay. So Rama, why don't you conduct Dr. Pawan's talk? Why don't you introduce him, and then let's hear him?
Yeah, sure.
Lead the way.
Thank you, Sandeep ji, and thank you for the updates. And hopefully I think you might be having the link for the plasma donors too. So I got one link from API, and I think you might be having the same thing, like it's for Mayo Clinic is one, and there is the other one from Red Cross. So I'll share both the links on the Facebook. So
Yes,
that will be really helpful. And thank you so much, Honorable Consul General Sandeep ji and Shatrughan ji and your team. So you guys are really doing wonderful job, and you guys like keeping us motivated. I know, like, we are stuck up in the houses. It's like a open air jail. So we have everything to eat, but we cannot go out.
So Ram, I have a question. This is Kavita. You talked about plasma donor list. Is that for all over US or specific areas that we have the list?
Yeah, so we'll update on that one. So this is for like a COVID-19 tested positive and they become negative, like, and they have to wait.
Correct,
for
but that correct. So what I'm the question I have is it for all over US or certain areas only?
It's all over US. It's all over US. Basically, they are looking for within the state. For example, if someone want to come to Ohio, they'll be quarantined for 14 days. So it's better to have within the same.
Sure.
Hello, can you hear me?
But if it's urgent, like, so we'll work on like different situations.
I
I think it's 11
Okay.
o'clock. Let's move to our
Yep, sure.
speaker today. Yeah. Please go ahead, Ram.
Yeah. Thank you, CG, and thank you, your team. And yeah, thanks for wonderful suggestion. And like it's 11 o'clock, we have Dr. Pawan, psychiatrist. You know, with the COVID-19, like we are physically bounded to like one area in the house, and like with the so many stay-at-home orders and the lockdown orders. So we have a lot of mental emotions. I know like how we are dealing with that one. I know like now I am more connected to my family. I'm thinking like, okay, I'm taking this opportunity, talking to my wife and talking to my kids, talking to my friends. So, but not everyone is in the same situation. So maybe because of the work and they need to go out, and even kids without school, they might be having like different mental tensions. And Dr. Pawan graciously accepted to do a session on this one. And he's the expert, like he's a very motivational speaker. So with this one, I introduce Dr. Pawan.
Thank you, Ramakrishna, for the kind words of introducing me. Can I share the desktop? I have some PowerPoint to share with you guys.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I would like to request anyone not speaking to mute themselves so we don't have any background noises.
Okay, I think Sugandha ji, you need to help me with sharing my desktop here.
Yes, sir. So you have to share you want to share your screen?
Yeah.
So do you have a PowerPoint slide?
I do.
So just open the PowerPoint slide first and keep it ready on the desktop. And once there's an option at the bottom, share screen. You just need to click that. And there are various options. So there you will see the PowerPoint presentation option over there. So you just need to click it and go start with it. And just press the button. Yeah, now I can see.
Okay.
Yes, I can see your presentation. You can.
Okay. Thank you. So, today we'll be talking a little bit about how we can maintain our emotional and mental health during this difficult time. But why do we need to talk about these emotions and moods at this time? When the whole world is talking about the coronavirus and how it can affect your lungs, it can lead to respiratory failure, what is the right way to wash your hands, how to wash your groceries and all that stuff. But why do we need to talk about our emotions and moods at this time? I think it is the most important time to talk about and address our mental health issues because of several reasons. The number one thing is that this pandemic is inducing a lot of strong emotions in all of us. And as we know, when we don't deal with the emotions in the right way, it leads to emotional distress. If we don't catch them early, that can lead to short-term and long-term mental health problems. And the second most important thing is that it is a well-established fact that people who are stressed out are more prone for catching infections, especially the viral infections. They get more susceptible to catch them. And at this time, we need to do everything to protect ourselves from catching this coronavirus going on. And we know that this coronavirus is affecting different people in different ways. Not everybody who is catching the infection is getting sick with, the pneumonia or, the lung problems. Some people are having stomach issues. Some people are starting with changes in the sensation of smell or taste. Some people are having like rashes over the body. Some people are mainly having fatigue. We all know that these can also be the signs of stress. You must have noticed that on the days you're most stressed out, you feel fatigued, you have headaches, you have body pains, you have rashes, itching, and all this stuff. So if you don't take care of your stress at this time and you're having some of these non-specific symptoms, you don't know if it is the early signs of the infection or is it just the stress. And you don't want to be going to the emergency room at this time if you don't really have the coronavirus. It's best for us to stay away from the hospitals and emergency rooms at this time if you don't really need. And I'm also hearing from my primary care physician friends, especially in the hardly hit areas, that other opportunistic infections, like people are having more shingles and kids are coming up with rashes and the other viral infections at this time, because this stress is causing the other infections to be caught easily by us. So if we don't address our stress and emotional problems at this time, we are putting ourselves at risk further for catching the coronavirus as well as the other infections at this time. And one thing about the emotions and the mental health problems is that most of the times we are very reactive to the treatment. That means we have some anxiety and depression, then we go and seek help, be it medications or therapy, but we never address them in a proactive way. Comparing to that, let's say if you are hitting 30 or 40 years of age, you start eating healthy, you exercise, you take multivitamin, because you want to prevent the physical health problems like diabetes or high blood pressure from happening. But how often do we address our emotions and mental health issues beforehand so that we don't have anxiety or depression? We rarely do that because we think that it doesn't happen to me. I won't get depression or anxiety. I'm mentally strong. But unfortunately, it's not. The depression and anxiety or stress-related issues can hit anybody anytime. So how is the country, America, dealing with this stress of the pandemic? American Psychiatric Association did an online survey of about 1,000 people in March 3rd week. It showed that 46% of Americans are impacted by the pandemic. That means they are having symptoms of stress. And out of them, almost 20% said they are having major issues. Major issues means not like the day-to-day worry. It is to the extent that it is impairing their day-to-day activities, be it professional, personal, or relationships, or like having sleep problems or having anxiety attacks. And one important survey that was done in China about 2 months ago, when they were in the thick of the pandemic, this survey was conducted exclusively in the healthcare employees, be it the doctors, nurses, or hospital techs. It showed that almost 50% of the people had significant effects on their mental health, needing treatment, like needing sleep medications or anxiety meds or depression meds, or going for the psychotherapy. So that shows that the world is not coping up really well with the stress that is caused by this pandemic. Not only this pandemic, the surveys done in the past disasters, be it the natural calamities like pandemics, earthquakes, hurricanes, or the man-made disasters like World War II or 9/11, they all showed that after this severe mass scale stress, people have more chances of getting the mental health issues. Some of the studies showed that almost there's an increase in 30 to 40% of mental health issues. And a worrisome number is that there was like 26% increase in suicide rates. In the field of psychiatry, there is a talk going on that after this pandemic, we should be prepared for an epidemic of mental health problems. So psychiatric consequences of these public health emergencies like depression, anxiety, PTSD are well studied, and there is a field of psychiatry called disaster psychiatry, which deals exclusively with how to take care of the mental health issues that can arise from these kind of issues. But why are we stressed out now? Why is this pandemic causing the stress? Number one thing is dealing with the unpredictability and uncertainties. Our brains are not geared towards dealing with the uncertainties and unpredictabilities in a good way. A lot of people are having questions. What if I catch the infection? What if I get sick and need hospitalization and there are not enough beds? What if I die? What will happen to my family? What if my parents get sick in India? Will I be able to go and visit them? What if I lose my job? What if the economy goes down? So lots of ifs and buts that our brains cannot deal with these uncertainties in a good way. And the second thing is that until about a month ago, we all had our own routines, getting up in the morning, eating breakfast, taking a shower, going to work, coming back, taking kids for the activities, playing tennis or socialization and all that stuff. But for the last 1 month, everything went for a toss. We are all stuck between these four walls and, just staying home, not doing anything. At the end of the day, we are all social animals. We need that social interaction for our mental and physical well-being to go on. These feelings of being cooped up in the house can affect the mental health in a significant way. The phenomenon of cabin fever is a well-known thing, that when people are confined to closed spaces for a long period of time, it starts affecting their emotions and moods in a significant way. And added to this, whenever you turn on the TV, the news channels, or be it the WhatsApp messages, there's always the constant stream of negative news of this, almost like sensationalizing news, which is giving more grave picture than what actually it is. And the words we are using these days, like social isolation, social distancing, lockdown, these are all negative words, they have negative connotations to them. Not knowingly, these negative words can have big impact on our emotions and moods. And, already there is a pre-existing friction between different cultures, different races, different, the supporters of political parties in a certain way. But this pandemic will bring out more of these frictions in the society. The blame game and everything will start, and that will start affecting the mass psychology in a big way. And people are worried about how the safety also, like if the economy goes down, how there would be a rise in the burglaries or racial attacks, those kind of things. As you must have heard about, the number of gun sales have went up significantly in the last 1 month because people are worried about their safety at this time. So all these factors, all these things, not only about their health, but also the financial status and also the safety, these are all causing stress in people. We all know that stress, when we don't control it well, can affect our body in different ways. No organ system in our body is immune to stress. It can affect the heart, lungs, your muscles, your brain, your stomach, everything. For any of you who must be suffering from diabetes or high blood pressure, might have noticed that on the days when you're stressed out, your blood pressure is high or your blood glucose is high. We take it for granted. I'm stressed out today, my blood pressure is high, my blood sugar is high, or my heart rate is high. But what is the underlying mechanism behind it? Why does this happen? To explain that, in a simple way, not to get too technical or medical here, all these body functions in our body, like the heart rate, blood pressure, blood sugars, are controlled by a fine network of nerves and chemicals, which is called the autonomous nervous system. There are two distinct divisions of this system. One is called the sympathetic nervous system. The other one is called the parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is the stress reacting system in our body. It is also called the fight or flight response system. The other one, the parasympathetic, is the calming system in our body. Why I'm talking about this in a little bit detail is when we will be talking about how to cope up with the stress, we will learn how to calm down your sympathetic system and activate your parasympathetic system. To explain this in an example, for example, imagine yourself being lost in a forest and suddenly you see a tiger. How does your body react to it? You have only two options there in front of you. Either you have to fight the tiger or you have to run away from the tiger, the fight or the flight. Whichever option you choose, fight or run away, your body has to undergo immediate changes to deal with the situation. Your muscles have to become tight and have to work more, either to run away or to fight. These overworking muscles need more glucose. So your liver starts pumping out glucose into your blood. Your heart needs to beat faster and also forcefully because it has to keep on this blood supply and oxygen supply going into the muscles. Your eyes become big because you need to see clearly to run away from the tiger. Have any of you experienced these symptoms? Not to this extent, but did you ever feel like, your heart was racing a little bit, you're having palpitations, your muscles are tight, your eyes are becoming bigger? I experienced those when I had to go for my exams or I had to go for my job interview. There are no tigers these days in the society, but our body is perceiving even small stresses we deal in our daily life as some big threats that are happening to us, and it thinks that it has to protect the body against this. So think of this 10 to 15 times our body is going through these changes. Your blood pressure is a little high, your blood glucose is a little high. All these subtle changes keep on adding, and that becomes your new routine. Like your blood pressure is constantly high, your blood sugars are high, you have headaches, your muscles are tight, and your vision goes down, you feel faint, you feel dizzy because the blood supply is going more to your muscles and than to your brain. So all these changes, like this picture shows you how the sympathetic system activates your stress response in the body, and the parasympathetic calms it down. How does this, the sympathetic system work in increasing the stress response in the body? You must have heard about the stress hormones, cortisols and catecholamines. Basically a small part in the brain releases certain chemicals when it thinks that you're under the stress. That goes on to activate certain chemicals in pituitary, that goes on the adrenals, which are like a small glands on your kidneys, which respond to the stress. The cortisol or stress hormones are healthy hormones. They protect you against the threats, real threats like infections. But when you're under constant mental stress, these stress hormones go up by 2 to 5 times in your body, and then they start causing these harmful effects on the body. Stress and immunity. This is a well-studied, well-researched, well-established area of medicine. We all know that stress can affect your immunity in a big way. Immunity is nothing but your body's police force against the invading agents like viruses or bacteria. If your immune system is not working well, let's say, the stress can make your immune system work too much or too little. If your immune system is working, if it is underactive, then you're more prone for infections. If your immune system is working too much, your body perceives everything as a threat. People with allergies like grass allergy or food allergies might have noticed that when you walk out, sometimes your body starts reacting. You sneeze, your body itches, you have watery eyes and all that. That is because the immune system is perceiving even this grass as a harmful thing in your body, and it goes on to produce certain chemicals, which causes stress reaction in the body. So regulating your stress will regulate your immune system so that it's not acting too much or not acting too little. The stress leading to increased risk of catching infections, especially the viral infections, is a well-studied phenomenon. And you must have heard about shingles, which is a painful viral condition that happens especially in the elderly population. People who get infected with chickenpox as kids or who are vaccinated, the virus lives dormantly in certain nerves in the body. And later on in the life, when you're going through some stressful condition, this virus becomes active and it starts a very painful infection. So that is what we are seeing more in the last 1 month. There's more cases of shingles coming up and more cases of viral infections like hand, foot, and mouth, those conditions in the children because of the stress. And the other thing is the stress has shown that the studies have shown that for people who are more stressed out mentally, the vaccines don't work that well. And when this stress has been dealt with, be it the medications or therapy or whatever way we can deal with the stress, then their body response to the vaccination has been shown to normalize. So that means that if we take care of our stress, our body will become normal to fight the infections and take care of itself. How do we recognize this stress? What are some early signs of emotional distress going on? If you're getting easily irritated, you don't want to talk much, you have poor patience with your kids or your partners, getting into more arguments, or you're reacting sharply to small things, constantly worrying about the catching infections, and you're cleaning too much, appetite changes, you're either eating too much or not having much appetite, trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, or waking up early in the morning, relying more on the alcohol to control your stress or for the sleep, having difficult time staying focused at work. These are all the early signs of emotional distress. If you don't address them properly, then they go on to become chronic problems like chronic anxiety, chronic depression, or post-traumatic stress disorder, those kind of things. Long-term effects, if many of us who are having these early signs of emotional distress will be okay after this pandemic goes down and the lockdown is lifted, but some percentage of people will go on to have chronic mental health issues. Whenever we go through certain trauma, any unpleasant emotion, our body thinks that it needs to remember this emotion or the trauma and save it as a painful memory to protect itself from future damage when we are exposed to a similar situation. So when in the future, like say a few months later or 1 year later, when we are faced with a similar situation, the body brings out those painful memories in different ways so as to protect ourselves. For example, let's say, the pandemic is over. 1 year later, you're traveling in a train and somebody accidentally coughs on you. Then that might trigger all these memories, all this anxiety at that time, thinking that, like you are at high risk for the infection at that time. So some people are going to have long-term changes to their mental status if they don't take care of their stress. What we call is the mental and physical sensitization. That means that your emotions get sensitized and you're more prone for having these stress reactions in the future. Physical sensitization is like people who are stressed out, their body gets so sensitized that even small things can be big for them, like their pain tolerance goes down. Even a small trigger can induce a headache, tension headache, or body pains, or like we talked about, easily catching infections. Some special vulnerable groups we got to be very careful about at this time is, one of them is children. Imagine with all your intelligence, reasoning, experience, if you as an adult is having so much of stress, anxiety, worry, what must be going on with the kids? They cannot understand the severity of the problem that is going on. And they think that their parents are invincible. They are there to protect them all the time. If your kids see you stressing out, anxious, then they start questioning it. My parent is feeling helpless, then who is there to protect me? A lot of them cannot express their feelings. They show it in different ways. And when kids are showing distress, most of the times it is a reflection of the parent's symptoms. Anxiety is very, very contagious. It's more contagious than virus. One anxious person in a family can make the whole family anxious and stressed out. So be careful about letting out your stress and emotions in front of the kids. Just two examples I wanted to give here about how the kids can deal with this stressful situation is 100 years ago when the Spanish flu happened, the city of Seattle went into a lockdown. A 14-year-old girl called Violet Harris, she started documenting the events and her emotions in the diary. First 1 week, 2 weeks, she was in an upbeat mood. No school, no homework, just staying home, playing. But as the lockdown continued, 3rd week, 4th week, 5th week, the tone of the writings went down significantly, that there was more stress, almost the depression was creeping in into her writings. The same is happening with the kids these days. We are not seeing much distress in the kids right now because this is a hunky-dory period for them. School is off, no homework, eating all the snacks, watching TV, playing video games. But if this pandemic continues for some more time, if there's going to be a long-term lockdown, we will start noticing these symptoms in the kids, and we got to be more attentive towards their emotions and needs. And the other example is Anne Frank. You must have read this great book called The Diary of Anne Frank. She was a girl who lived in during the Nazi occupation, the Nazi concentration camp. She and her family, Jewish, they were trying to escape the Nazi soldiers, and they hid themselves for several months in an attic of a warehouse. Basically, she was just stuck between four walls with her family. She also started writing a diary. Initially, the writings were very upbeat moods. Then later on, the moods went down, and she was documenting how distressing it was to be stuck between these four walls. Unfortunately, Anne Frank did not survive. She and her family were caught by the Nazis and they were sent to the concentration camp. Violet Harris survived. Nothing bad happened to her. So I'm talking about these two examples because as the children have a different way of dealing with the stress, and as this lockdown continues, be more attentive towards their needs. If you have toddlers at home, their signs will be different. A toddler cannot tell you, Mom, I'm feeling scared, or Dad, I'm feeling sad. They have different ways to express. If they're complaining about headaches or stomach pain, tummy pains, or if they're having changes to their bowel habits like diarrhea or constipation, that is a sign of their emotional distress. If recently potty trained child is reverting back to having more potty accidents or bedwetting, or they're now wanting to sleep with the parents, or they're complaining of this monster in the closet, which is their personification of their fears, then you must understand that, okay, they're worried about something and you address with them. Older children, obviously, they will have more irritability, more defiance, talking back, not listening to you, cannot stay focused, not sleeping well, appetite changes and all that. How do you address these problems in the kids? Most important thing is active listening. Sit and talk with them. Let them vent out their feelings. They might seem to you to be irrational, but for the person who is experiencing them, they are real. So don't brush off their feelings. Just reassure them, validate their emotions, and ask them what specifically they are worried about. Some child might say, Dad, I'm worried about you catching the infection and dying. Some might say, Dad, I'm worried about me catching the infection and dying. Some might say, Daddy, if something happens to you, who will take care of us? So address their specific concerns, ask them specifically what they're worried about, and address them in a reasonable, age-appropriate way, age-appropriate language. Sometimes the numbers will, if it is an older kid, if you show them the statistics, like how many people who catch the infection will get really sick, what small percentage of people will die, about the financial status and everything, just reassure them. And more important thing is regulating their biological clock. Kids' bodies are very sensitive. Certain chemicals, certain hormones are released at certain times of the day. If they're not sleeping well, or if they're sleeping at the odd times, waking up late into the night and sleeping late into the night and waking up late in the morning, this whole balance in the body, the inside chemical balance will go haywire, and then they will start having more problems. Nutritious diet, limiting screen time, hygiene, like a bath every day with fresh clothes, makes big difference. Other vulnerable population is elderly. People who have passed their prime, people who are in their 60s or 70s might already be experiencing the existential crisis. They might be asking themselves, like, was my life worthwhile? Did I lead a good life? Should I have done something differently? Why did one of my children did not turn out the way I wanted them to? What was my fault in that? So people who are already experiencing these symptoms, the stress, this pandemic is adding more stress to them. And think of it, the whole media is about how this virus can affect elderly population in a significant way. So they must be feeling more vulnerable, more helpless. As such, the rates of geriatric depression and anxiety are going up significantly all across the world, primarily because of the loneliness of this modern world. And this social isolation is adding to their loneliness. So elderly are more prone for increased stress at this time. If you can address it in any way, like more talking to them, that can be helpful. And survivor's guilt, which is a very common phenomenon in grief. Some of the elderly people will have to experience loss in a way that some of their friends or family members are not going to survive this pandemic. Then they will start having these issues like, why did he pass away? Why wasn't it me? What did I do to survive? Those kind of survivor's guilt, which is a very common thing in the grief. And the third vulnerable population is people with pre-existing mental health issues. If people without any previous anxiety and depression are having so much worry, think about people who already have anxiety issues. It is a terrifying experience for them to catch the infection. For example, some people I know, they are washing their hands like 100 times every day so that they don't catch the infections. They're having rashes and this dryness of the hands and causing more problems. They're cleaning their house like 50 times every day. This leads to a lot of emotional distress. And people with subclinical depression, in the general population, at any given time, 2 to 3% of people suffer from significant depression and anxiety. But almost 20% of the people, they have what is called the subclinical symptoms. That means that they have all these symptoms, but they are able to cope up with the daily life and not be significantly symptomatic. But any stress will bring out these symptoms, like the cup becomes overflowing and then they start having significant problems. This pandemic is bringing out that symptoms in most of the people and are having new onset anxiety or new onset OCD depression symptoms. How do we cope up with the anxiety? As you can see on the graph here, anxiety is not a bad thing. If you are worried or anxious at this time, accept that it is a normal thing. If you're not anxious at this time, either you're not paying enough attention to what is going on around in the world, or you're somebody who is not taking things seriously. So when the anxiety goes up, your performance will also go up. It only becomes a problem when your anxiety becomes too much. As you can see at the optimal anxiety and performance point, after that, if the anxiety goes up, your performance goes down, down, and down until a point where it becomes crippling and you feel paralyzed. So take your anxiety to that optimal performance stage and stop it there. Use this anxious energy to clean the house, declutter, engage in activities like you always wanted to do. But when you're having more anxiety than that, you have to expend that anxiety in one way or the other. Otherwise, that nervous energy which is stored in your body will come out as either physical symptoms like headaches or stomach problems, or mental issues like panic attacks or nightmares, sleep problems. So like I said, just embrace your anxiety. The more you fight your anxiety, the more problems you're going to have. Just modulate it to your advantage and use that anxious energy to get things done. Engage in running, walking, yoga, that helps a lot during this time, gardening, those kind of things. Mindfulness. The mindfulness is the big buzzword these days. Mindfulness is basically being aware of this moment. A lot of times people live in the future. They're worried about what if this happens tomorrow? What if this happens next year? How will my kids turn up? What will happen to my retirement? So we are basically living in the future. that is making us anxious. Some people just live in the past. Maybe I should have done things differently 10 years ago. Maybe I should have gone to a different college. Maybe I should have gotten a different job. So if you live in the past, you're depressed. If you live in the future, you're anxious. We are forgetting to live in the current moment, this present moment. We rarely realize that this is the only reality, the current moment. So this mindfulness training is it's a training exercise that will help you how to live in the movement and appreciate what you have right now. So like enjoy the lockdown, this movement when you're, when you are between four walls with your family, enjoy that time with the kids, spend more time. They love attention, give it to them, do more activities with them. Some of, it's mindfulness training is a big thing which cannot be covered in a few minutes, but one of the things, the grounding technique, which a lot of people like, especially the ones who have like sudden burst of severe anxiety or panic attacks. Some people tell me that, suddenly I have this racing thoughts about my future or my past, that I cannot break that cycle, I cannot escape it. This grounding technique is like activating your 5 senses at that moment, so that your brain doesn't have the energy or time to think about the future or the past. Just as an example, if you are sitting working and suddenly you have all these worries come into your head, activate your 5 senses. Our basic 5 senses are, seeing, hearing, skin touching, taste, smell. So go out, look for 5 different bright colors, like the red rose in the garden, or, go to your room and look at your favorite blue shirt or something like that. And here, listen to the 5 different, listen to your music, or like the bird chirping in the garden, or like your kid playing in the other room. Go into the kitchen, smell 5 different things, taste 5, put a little bit of sugar on your mouth, a little bit of salt or something pungent. So when it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to do this, but your body kind of resets itself because all the senses come to the current movement at that time. It might sound a little odd for you who don't have this, the anxiety issues, but for people who have panic attacks, it works very well for them. The breathing techniques, some of you might have engaged in pranayama or other, the yoga techniques. There is a science behind this. It has been studied and published. When we were earlier talking about activating our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relaxing system in our body, the breathing controls those 2 systems. One breathing technique a lot of people with anxiety like is 7-11 breathing. You breathe in, counting slowly till 7. Hold your breath for about 3 seconds. Then breathe out, counting till 11. Basically, what you're doing is you're breathing in less and breathing out more, because breathing in, the inspiration generally activates the sympathetic system. Breathing out activates your parasympathetic system. So you feel more relaxed. And the other thing is, breathe in 4 seconds, hold on for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold on for 4 seconds. This is not something you do like once a day or twice a day. Do it once every hour. It takes a couple of minutes, but for the next 1 hour, you feel more relaxed, more rejuvenated. And one other thing is what is called the diaphragmatic breathing or the belly breathing. Abdominal breathing is better. Kids do that, but as adults, we become more, like breathe from the chest, thorax. One way to practice it is sit upright, put your one hand, your left hand on your chest, and put your right hand on your stomach. Breathe in slowly, deeply. Make sure that the hand on your chest is not going up. The hand on your stomach is going up. And breathe out. And the right hand should go in. So if you practice more of this diaphragmatic breathing, you feel more relaxed. And the next slide shows you about the adrenaline and the oxytocin. These are different chemicals in our body. Adrenaline is the stress hormone in the body. When we were talking about the fight or flight, the tiger chasing, that is mediated by this adrenaline. Put down this adrenaline and stimulate the oxytocin and the endorphins. Oxytocin is considered to be the love hormone. Basically, when you cuddle with your kids, play with your pets, or hug your significant other, this oxytocin releases in your body. That makes you feel more relaxed and better. Your moods improve. So work more on increasing the oxytocin. And endorphins. Endorphins are the ones which are, the chemicals which are released when you do something which you like when you exercise, or when you watch a good movie, when you read a good book, those kind of things. Though we are, the social isolation is a wrong word. Maybe we should call it the physical distancing. Let us not be socially isolated. Let us use this opportunity to get more connected at this difficult times. Next time when you're planning to call your parents or friends, instead of the voice call, just do the video call. Don't just activate your hearing, activate your seeing and hearing, and that seeing them will make you feel more connected. And we always complained about life is so busy, I don't have time. If I had time, I would have picked up this hobby or read this book or talked to my relatives more. I could have connected more with my friends from college days. Now we have all the time in the world. If you're not doing any of this stuff, we just have excuses. Have some deep, meaningful conversations with your family members. Try to work on those broken relationships. And this is the time to work on bonding with your kids, which will have, good returns in the long run. When kids love the attention, just give it to them now. Practice compassion and kindness. If there's an elderly couple in your neighborhood, get them some groceries, because you don't want them to be going to the grocery stores often. That makes you feel better. It's not only helping them, but you're helping yourself with that. Feeling like being a part of the bigger noble mission. When people practice religion, or be a part of like a big football club or something, they feel better because they feel like they're a part of something big going on. That helps your moods. And over-the-counter supplements, I see a lot of people taking, like the over-the-counter supplements. Just be careful about what you're taking. Just talk to your doctor. And we got to accept that for some time to come, our life has changed. It is going to be different. So if you set your expectations under check, you will not be feeling distressed. Briefly talking about what is called the cognitive restructuring. It is a, cognitive behavioral therapy is something which helps a lot with dealing with stressful situations. As you can see in this slide, we have a thought. The thought influences our emotion, and that emotion influences the behavior. Then that behavior in turn changes our thought. So it becomes kind of like a cycle. So breaking this cycle somewhere by changing the thought or changing the resulting emotion can get you out of this cycle of stress. It basically involves reframing thoughts. It involves some training and practice. For just as a simple example, like if you are feeling frustrated that I'm stuck at home and feel frustrated, changing this thought consciously to I'm not stuck at home, I'm staying at home to keep myself and my family safe. Or I have lost all my freedom, changing that to I have relinquished my freedom for a noble purpose. Simple techniques, but they make big difference. Setting biological clock. Because of this lockdown, we staying at home all the time, we are not sleeping at the right time, not waking up at the right time. But unfortunately, our bodies thrive on predictability, and it needs to have certain time frame for, like the chemicals to release. For example, growth hormone or the androgens, they release early in the morning. Certain calmness promoting chemicals like melatonin, those kind of things are released in the body after the sun goes down. So sleeping at the same time, right time every day, and waking up at the right time is very, very important for this body homeostasis to go on. I see a lot of times, my friends who work from home, their biological clock is haywire. They don't sleep at the right time, they don't wake up at the right time, and most of them are having problems like this, high cholesterol or high blood pressure, those kind of things, because the biological clock in the body is completely disrupted. And regular routine, even as adults, taking a shower every day in the morning, eating breakfast, wearing fresh clothes, these all make a big difference. And I briefly wanted to mention about chanting. If you, singing aloud is known to activate a nerve in our body. There is a nerve called the vagus nerve, which goes very close to the vocal cords. This is the nerve which controls the parasympathetic nervous system. So you must have noticed on the days you went to the temple and like sang the mantras, or like the church choir or whatever it is, you feel better, because the studies have shown that this activation of this vagus nerve with the loud singing makes you more relaxed. That's why most of the religions promote this singing mantras or hymns or those kind of things. So don't be ashamed of or feel embarrassed about doing these things, even if it is singing aloud in the shower or singing with your kids. That makes you feel better. Psychological first aid, like how we have first aid for body injuries or something, psychological first aid is also very important. If you are experiencing any loss during this time, be it a family member or a friend or something, addressing your emotions, grief counseling with a counselor will help you in preventing long-term mental health issues from happening. Something else I wanted to mention about is the alcohol and the drugs, including the nicotine cigarettes. Alcohol has been known as the disease of isolation. People who have, sorry about that, disease of isolation. People who feel lonely, more isolated, have more chances of depending on alcohol. So be careful about how much you're drinking. So I think we are, running over time. So just briefly to mention about, certain things. People who got sick with Spanish flu 100 years ago, a similar situation that we are experiencing right now, but they survived and went on to achieve great things. Walt Disney, if not for him, we wouldn't have the Disney park, Disney World. Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, they all got sick with the Spanish flu and they survived and achieved great things. The painting you see here is the one that was done by Edward Munch. He was suffering from Spanish flu. He isolated himself and he was deathly sick, but he still went on to draw it. So even if you get sick, just be careful, utilize that time to, to be productive. And I'm open for any questions. And if you have any questions later on, I have my email address there if you want to shoot me a quick email.
Dr. Don,
yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, so it was really informative, and especially about the kids. And thank you for taking.
It's a definitely an eye opener. Ram, you're on mute.
Thank you.
Rajni, yeah, I was thanking Dr. Pawan for taking time, and the kids session was really informative, and even our CGG was appreciating that one. I think Rajni, you have a question. We can start with you.
Yeah, very quick question. I know you, Dr. Dontineni, you touched stress and also a topic on the immunity system, right? So how are they both related? Can you shed a little more light on how stress can impact immunity system, or in a positive or negative?
Sure. Stress has been, our immunity, our immune system fights the invading agents by producing certain cells in the blood. You must have heard about the white blood cells, WBCs. There are different kinds of cells, the neutrophils, lymphocytes, and all that. Different cells act against different, different pathogens like bacteria or viruses. The stress has been known to lower the production of these cells, especially the lymphocytes, So there is not enough police force in the body to fight against these invading agents. That is, we are more prone for infections. The other way it makes the immune system overactive is by, it mediates through certain chemicals like, cytokines, interleukins. These are certain cell signals which tells the body to react to the invading agents. Then when these chemicals are more active, even small innocent things are taken by the body as very dangerous stuff, and they react rapidly to it.
Thank you, Dr. Pawan. I have a question. I think you talked about like kids who are our future generation.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a question like, if the kids are not talking about the coronavirus, should we make them talk or just leave them?
It depends, yes or no. If the kid is not wanting to talk about it, it could be two reasons. One is they are not affected by this, or the other thing is they're worried, but they don't want to talk about it because they don't know how to express their thoughts, or they are thinking about upsetting the parents. So just observe your kids. If the kid is fine, no signs of distress or anything, you can just ignore and keep a close eye on them. But if you feel like they're having some issues, but they're not talking about it, just sit with them, lead the discussion, and let them come up with what their concerns are. Instead of you putting words into their mouth, let them come up with their own worries and anxieties.
Thank you, Dr. Pawan. And I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are talking like over-the-counter supplements like vitamin D to fight coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
It's out of anxiety. So can you explain more about it, like vitamin C or vitamin D?
That's a very good question. There have been some reports that taking vitamin D or vitamin C, zinc, those are helpful at this time. But people out of their anxiety are taking things which can be dangerous to the body. Like you must have heard about this husband and wife who died recently in Arizona because they took the chloroquine tablets which are used in the aquariums. And I'm also hearing about, there is a chemical, the quinine, the anti-malarial medication is there in the tonic water. So in the stores, people are buying all those tonic water and drinking too much. So that's not good. And some of the supplements like, elderberry juice, those are harmful at this time because they do what is called the cytokine release in the system. So that can do more damage. Take the vitamin D supplements, vitamin C supplements, but do not take anything which is outside of these. Be careful and talk to your primary care doctors about this.
Thank you, Pawan.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Pawan. This is Harita. I have a question. Yeah. Usually, this is about, dealing with like stress or anxiety. It could be related to COVID-19 or just work related. I always want like an extra cup of coffee or some fried food or sweet. Do you have any technique to, deal with this and sort of like depending on all these extra snacks or more caffeine, or how do you deal with that? I mean, if you had like any technique.
A lot of times we eat out of boredom, not because we are hungry. Yeah. When I was talking about the grounding technique, when people are getting into this cycle of anxiety or feeling bored, they engage in this maladaptive behaviors like eating salty fruits or sugary foods. When you activate your senses, go out, stretch a little bit or exercise a little bit, or, like the techniques we talked about in grounding, you will see that your craving for sugars and salts go down. You will be going more towards the healthy foods.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We have a lot of student community here and H1B crowd who live in apartments sharing by 4 or 5 people. So first of all, their counterparts, their families in India, hearing the negative news, they want them to come back. So every now and then they emphasize on that. Secondly, one of the roommates do not adhere to the protocols. and then they are more concerned that I may catch one. So how do we tackle and deal with this type of advice? How do we advise them?
The first thing is staying away from negative news. Keeping updated with the news is very important. At the same time, staying away from all these constant news items coming on the TV or the social media is very, very important. And we can present them with the statistics. As we know, the number of people who catch the infection that becomes symptomatic are very less, and out of those also, those getting sick that the need hospitalization is very, very less, and out of those also people who are dying. Yeah, we are seeing big numbers right now, but out of all the people who are catching the infection, who are getting significantly sick are very less. So if we put our emotions aside and bring the factual numbers and reasons, our anxiety can go down.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pawan. So on the similar grounds, I have a question, so most of our community stays in the apartments, and it might be elderly, or even I got calls from the younger generation too. So they are asking because there's a common HVAC system and there are a lot of common areas. So will they be getting infected? I know it's an anxiety. So I don't know, what suggestion you can give to them, because they cannot avoid this one.
Well, this is something which is probably out of the scope here, but we don't know the full details about the coronavirus at this time. The picture is evolving every day. Initially, it was thought that it is not spread by droplets or aerosolized, but now they are talking about how many hours it can live. The virus can be active in the air, and how long we can, what are the chances of us catching the infection from walking outside. The chances are there, but I think the risk is less. So if you're going out in the common areas or walking outside, I would say that at this time, walking in the areas where there is not much crowd, going out on a trail rather than the common areas of the apartments or those kind of things. Because I'm seeing here that some people are thinking that if you can maintain the 6 feet distance, it is okay, but probably it is better to be careful and avoid people highly rushed areas.
Any more questions, guys?
Like Sandeep ji's texted, it's it's highly recommended that you wear the masks at this time, because of the the virus spreading through the droplets.
Yeah, but it's hard to get masks. I know,
no, one should use homemade masks. For instance, yesterday I went out a little bit to get some fresh air, and I just doubled folded our mufflers and tied it around my nose and my mouth, and my daughters also did the same. I think we can all do the same. Not necessary to get the surgical mask or N95 mask, particularly people who are not infected. I think it gives a good sense of security. It will prevent you to inhaling droplets, and also prevent others from getting your droplets. I think it's you don't need you can easily make your own mask. There are so many videos on, or if you have nothing, just fold your mufflers and just put it around your or your bandana or your scarf or something. Some protection is better than no protection. That's my view. So, and I have been doing that.
And that's a good suggestion.
Living in close, like somebody mentioned about 4 or 5 people sharing a small apartment. There also, I think if you inside the apartment also, if you're having interactions, it's difficult to have social distancing. You can wear a mask or wear a scarf around your face. That should be okay.
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep ji. And even the masks are really needed by the healthcare professionals. So they're in lack of that one.
Yeah, we should not.
Yeah, just. And I have one more question, Pawan ji.
Sure.
So like, because you're talking about the kids, right? Are they allowed like wearing masks and going outside and play or bike? Because they can get out of the anxiety.
It is very important that you take the kids out for playing in the backyard, or like in the not touching the like the slides or anything, but just for a biking or walking in the parks, because the kids are more prone for the cabin fever symptoms. They get irritated, it start affecting their emotions quickly than adults if they're just confined within the four walls. And having them wear the mask is very important.
Yeah, thank you, Pawan. So any more questions, guys? Like, we are right on time. It's noon.
I think, but one small suggestion which we are practicing at home is that it's a good time to teach the children how to cook. Baking, making simple things. If the child is not a toddler or it's not very small, but they can be, because one needs those life skills as well. So I think cooking is a very curative and it's a very relaxing experience. So they should be asked to look up recipes and online, and then experiment under watchful eye of the parent. Let them run the kitchen, let them make some meals. I think that keeps them engaged and also relieves the stress and tension. So I have used it quite a bit, and my daughters have been baking. So every week we are getting to find new, do it at yourself or home kind of a solution. So encourage your children to enter the kitchen and give a break to your spouse and ask them to make things. I think that could be one of the ways they can be engaged, rather than always watching video and spending screen time.
That's a very good point, teaching them how to cook, and also teaching them how to fix small things around the house, which they generally don't like, not normal circumstances.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Pawan. A very, very useful presentation. I liked your slides and the way you constructed the whole narrative and addressed each category of people. People, elderly people, people. Very, very useful. Thank you very much, and thank you FIA Ohio for putting this together.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjit ji, and I want to thank all the healthcare professionals and the first responders who are spending their extra efforts, and I really want to thank them, and all the grocery stores and all the service providers. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. Thank you, Pawan.
Thank you.